Okay, so I want to thank people for reviewing my research or checking it out, clicking on it. And I was reading a paper or a compilation I made of quotes from Basil J. Haley on the quantum potential from David Bohm and just the implications of what Bohmian physics has discovered, which is that non-locality is inherent to reality as a newly discovered force that's anti-gravitational. And so Basil J. Haley says that space is inherently curved um, as entanglement, and so that's why you get this white hole, black hole, precognitive, active information. And what was exciting for Basil J. Haley was the weak measurement experiment with photons was able to um, replicate the quantum potential that Bohm had first um, discovered mathematically. Well, actually, it was Louis de Broglie who discovered it first, and then Bohm rediscovered it. But the problem with Louis de Broglie was he was trying to use a Cartesian space-time, and the when I corresponded with Basil J. Haley, I pointed out this lecture by Alan Khan that Basil J. Haley really dug because Alan Khan was talking to physicists, and Alan Khan's a math professor, but Alan Khan was just pointing out that George Riemann, Riemann geometry is used for relativity, and but Riemann realized that at the small scale of light, um, that the geometry breaks down, and there has to be some kind of algebraic process. And so Einstein, in his final years, realized that this also was true, that Heisenberg was correct, and that the time and frequency as an algebraic process is inherently dependent on the order of measurement. And so you have this holographic, um, interactive, precognitive reality. And so the weak measurements verified this and said it was even gravitationally repulsive. Um, the So Basil J. Halley's big point was that in biology, this force that first was discovered in the 1920s by Pascual Jordan, who was a Nazi, but that's why Basil J. Halley said that of course his work was denigrated and ignored in the science community, but he was corroborated by the discovery of spin. So the inherent one half spin of the electron is also tied to this virtual photon reality that then creates new matter. Um, and so the electron is actually made of two photons, one of them being a virtual photon and a normal photon and then the normal photon then gets emitted when you have this resonance frequency. So it's this deeper level that is not, it's just based on negative frequency from the future. Excuse me. So Basil J. Haley's point was that you don't need matter inherently. You can just rely on the photon, and then the photon will create new matter based on this negentropy process. And that's what meditation really becomes in the final stage is where you're what they call the Yang Shen, which is the golden immortal body. So people see golden light externally, but internally you see blue light, and the blue light is absorbing virtual photons from the future that cannot be seen but can be listened to. And it's that process of listening that is actually what creates the superluminal resonance in meditation. And so, what makes listening unique is that it's been proven in biology to be 10 times faster than Fourier uncertainty. And Fourier uncertainty is just that symmetrical mathematics of the conversion of time and frequency as geometry. So you have some definition of time that's not dependent on geometry, and this is where you get a new definition of time that they're calling primitive time or fundamental time or primordial time. And the whole point of relativity is you cannot violate primitive causality. But if you're not relying on an external observation, but internal listening, then you have this primitive formative cause that's not a what do you call it? Anyway, it's not an efficient cause, is what they call it in terms of Aristotelian philosophy. But the so it's essentially the form with no form because it's not a geometric form, it's a form of frequency of light. That's where you get that the Klein bottle thing where you go like this because it's like at zero. The light Basil J. Halley's point is that the light has zero rest mass, so you're getting this 0 point of light, and yet the light still has a precognitive entanglement that's non-local, and so the non-commutative non-locality is inherent to the definition of light. You have to have a new definition of the photon, and this was John G. Williamson's big point too for his Quisicle project that um, that I don't know if it's still going. They have a YouTube channel and a website, but he then passed on. I corresponded with him a couple times, and he admitted that it's what he discovered, or the Martin van der Mark's work that was with Gerard de Hooft. That Gerard de Hooft calls it the eternal black hole, and so it's a new definition of a black hole as is that's beyond spatial scale. So it's both on the micro scale and the macro scale of the whole universe due to this time, primordial time definition. And so then in meditation or deep prayer, you can store it up. And this was the secret of mystic Christianity based on this Pythagorean philosophy of the logos from that was also studied in Judaism and in Egyptian alchemy, and it's from Eastern philosophy. And so it got covered up by Platonic philosophy, and then modern science was created based on Platonic philosophy. And so that's what's causing biological annihilation on Earth because you have all this Western modern development where they define time as a symmetric geometry. And if you don't go with that definition, then you don't fit into their religion of technology where there has to be progress based on a linear definition of time. That spatially, you have to expand in space, and that's why there's this fixation of space travel and leaving Earth and using like using up Earth and trying to preserve Earth as some kind of museum of life that's like in the past. And anyway, and then So you have to have genocide to do that, which is, you know, what my research got into is how this is justified by the New Age as like spiritual cleansing, and that's what fascism really was also as a justification that actually came from Christianity. And so you have like the Roman Empire and Christianity sort of combined together, and it's this like insane psychotic justification of genocide and ecocide as spiritual cleansing, and it's really rooted in patriarchy and just the wrong definition of reality from the wrong mathematics. And so people learn like the Pythagorean theorem by the time they're 14 years old, so they get hardwired into this wrong definition of reality. And so then on the internet, we define the truth based on popularity, because everything's on the internet has been corporatized, so it's all based on a business model, and everybody's trying to sell stuff or rely on advertising, and so um, the algorithms and all that, it's all automated where you have to make money to have the truth, and so the truth is, you know what you can see on the internet as popularity, but that's not the real truth. So anyway, um yeah, I feel like Basil J. Haley really discovered the truth of reality, and then he grew up in Burma, um, which is a Buddhist culture and based on meditation, and so like people don't understand, like everybody in Burma had to meditate in the monastery, or all the males did, and then some of them would become monks. So it was pretty common. The as a culture, their national sport was based on cooperation. Chinloan, I think it's called. It's like hacky sack. So nobody was a loser. It was a win-win. You win as a team. So anyway, totally different reality that he grew up in.